What is up guys, Solheim here, back with another Classic WoW Season of Mastery video. So today we'll be talking about raiding in Classic WoW Season of Mastery, and the recent buffs and tweaks to the boss fight inside Molten Core and Onyxia that is sure to spice up raiding in Season of Mastery. So as a quick recap, for those of you who don't know, Blizzard have said they wanted us to experience more difficult raiding content this time around, and they initially said they would be restoring old raid boss mechanics, but now they are also reworking the fights and introducing new raid mechanics, while still trying to maintain the classic WoW raid style to avoid turning it into Retail 2.0. This means you can expect brand new raid mechanics in Molten Core and Onyxia, as well as probably every single raid coming in later phases in Season of Mastery, and we got to play with the Molten Core and Onyxia changes on the Season of Mastery open beta. By the way, someone count how many times I say Season of Mastery in this video. This has to be a world record. So in this video we are going to look at the changes we have so far to the boss fight in Molten Core and Onyxia. But before we do that, I just want to give a disclaimer that these initial changes might get changed based on player feedback, and they might be different before the actual launch, so just keep that in mind. Okay, let's take a look at some raid bosses. The first baseline change that affects every single raid boss as well as trash mob inside the raid is that health has been doubled. In Molten Core, Lucifron has 4 adds and deals a lot more damage, and that is basically everything you need to know. This is the first boss after all, and things ramps up as we get further into the instance. Already at Magmadar, things start to get spicy, as he spawns core hounds during the fight that needs to be off-tanked and killed after he dies, and on top of that he seems to be spawning more fires, and those fires deals more damage, and having more fires also means having a way to get you out of fear is incredibly valuable, as one fear might get you killed. Geddon also has 4 adds just like Lucifron, and these adds stuns more often, and also does a cleave attack, making this very punishing for melee. Gar will be spawning little adds on top of the regular 8 ones, and these small adds will be charging people, and explode and knock them back. The explosion is an AoE damaging and a knockback ability, basically discouraging stacking in one place, meaning people will want to spread out more, and these adds cannot be avoided. All of these changes so far can pretty much be avoided pretty easily by either not stacking up or just not stacking melee characters due to cleave damage. Moving on to Baron Geddon, this fight is absolutely incredible in my opinion, and they've improved this one so much, and I can't wait to see this fight in action in Season of Mastery. So Baron Geddon will now be casting 3 living bombs instead of 1, meaning people need to be extra aware of living bombs, which was already an issue to some people for some reason in Classic WoW. On top of that, the living bombs also leaves a damage over time effect on the floor of the explosion, meaning you cannot just have one corner where everyone with the bomb goes to, because there will be an AoE damage patch on that part of the floor for the rest of the boss fight. Inferno also leaves a lava patch on the floor dealing AoE damage to anyone that steps on it, meaning the boss has to be kited. At 10% he also casts Armageddon, and you have to finish him before he finishes the cast, or he kills everyone. Pretty much a mechanic and DPS check, because if half your raid is dead when he casts Armageddon, you might not be able to defeat him before the cast is finished. Shazzrah creates images of himself when he teleports, which is pretty much just a mirror image mechanic. On top of that, he's immune to taunt. The mirror images only have 48,000 health, meaning they can be killed pretty quickly, and the mirror images will also use Arcane Explosion. This could create 2 possible strategies, where one is to burn down the mirror images, and number 2 is to ignore the mirrored images and kite the boss and burn down the boss. Sulfuron is a pretty weird fight and feels more nerfed than buffed. Well, I guess that depends on how you look at it, but basically the 4 adds have connected health, meaning if you deal damage to one of them it will hurt them all. This will allow you to chain pump AoE damage, but it also means you can't burn down one add quickly. In order to have less heals you need to kick, so this time around you need a perfect kick rotation, and you need to kick all 4 adds until all 4 of them die at the same time. On top of that, the shadow damage over time ability deals more damage, and aside from that, it's a pretty easy fight, just have the kick rotation in place. Golmag's Magma Splash ability now seems to reduce the tank's armor by even more. You can't outrange the dogs and they have to be off-tanked, and the stacking damage debuff is really horrible for melee characters, meaning you have to run out after a few stacks, wait for it to clear out, and then go back in. He is also periodically casting Earthquake, dealing damage to everyone in the raid. Major Domo's first mechanic is that all sheep break upon 2 mobs dying. The melee mobs will also deal more damage, and they cast a fireball volley, which really hurts. The priest ads will dispel your damage over time effect, as well as heal other ads, so they need to be kicked, and you need a CC or kick rotation for them. Other than that, it's pretty much the same fight, and you can still use hunters to kite the mobs and so on. Ragnaros has a guaranteed submerge happening at 50% health, meaning that no matter how good geared your group is, you will have to go through the submerge phase. This is a phase that was skipped in Classic WoW and can therefore be classified as new for Season of Mastery, but in theory this is an old mechanic. On top of that, the Sons of Ragnaros will periodically spawn after Ragnaros hits 30%, so if you are really unlucky with the timing and the DPS checks, you might end up getting a timed submerge phase, while also having periodic Sons of Ragnaros spawning at the same time, which might cause chaos. On top of that, Blizzard teased some more changes to the Ragnaros fight on Twitter, where they used an animation of Ragnaros standing up, possibly hinting towards a secret Ragnaros phase that will be in Season of Mastery, that we did not get to test on the open beta. Personally, I hope they do that because right now Baron Geddon seems to be the most difficult boss in the raid, and I want Ragnaros to be the most difficult one. As for Onyxia, it was a little bit bugged during raid testing as the flames would go all over the map regardless of which way Onyxia was facing, meaning it was pretty much RNG if he got hit or not, and no safe spots were working the way they were supposed to. I think Blizzard is trying to remove safe spots and make it so fires spawn based on where she is facing, while also hitting the safe spot, but right now it seems bugged. On top of that, Onyxia will spawn wardens throughout the fight, meaning you have more mobs you need to kill during the ad phase. All of these changes will actually help enforce a ranged meta instead of a melee meta this time for Classic WoW, as melee characters will both take more damage as well as deal less damage, as they have to step away from the bosses to avoid cleave mechanics, and the top pugs doing Molten Core in the open beta were running ranged groups this time around to counter the most recent wave of changes, and honestly, I'm all for a meta change. For those of you still watching, I'll also use this opportunity to tell you guys that I've published my own gold making guide for Season of Mastery, containing 38 different gold farms and 36 items to invest in, and if you want to make thousands of gold in Season of Mastery, this is your guide to do exactly that. Right now you can also get 50% off to celebrate the launch of the guide, so check it out through the link in the video description and the pinned comment. If you did enjoy the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, it really helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe for more Season of Mastery content. And just before you leave, if you were in fact counting the amount of times I said Season of Mastery, Season of Mastery, Season of Mastery, Season of Mastery, and Season of Mastery. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.